everyone, and welcome to the UIA Workshop Series. Carmen Danisco. I am coming to you from the clear and sunny Tampa, Florida. We're going to have some great guests on today. I want to bring on my co-host for today's show of number 3. We're going to talk a little bit about, what are we going to talk about today? I think we're talking about trade shows today. This is going to be an awesome show, number 3. And we're getting some great feedback on these shows. Let me bring on Warren so he can talk a little bit about it. Hey, Warren, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, Carmine, it's good to see you. And I couldn't help but think as you were doing the introduction that you're from Tampa and I'm from New York, and we're playing baseball against each other.
But luckily, I'm from the New York area too, so that's kind of good in a way.
Okay, all right. As long as you're
know, before we started the show, we were talking about so many other things. I forgot what we were talking about today. This is going to be a great show.
Oh, today's show's on trade shows, and soon enough we'll get to 2 of my favorite people in the entire world. But before we do that, I just want to say hi and thank you, Carmine, for setting up this platform and all that you do to help the UIA and getting the word out. And I know today's will be very helpful and educational as this whole series is meant to be, but thank you, Carmine, for your help.
Oh, no problem at all. Hey, listen, Warren, I was thinking, at these shows, as we progress, we're getting a lot of people listening, a lot of things happening. We should do like we get a lot of crazy stuff. We should do like the LOL or the laugh of the week every week. What do you think about doing something like that today? What do you got for us?
I think it'd be great. It's so funny. We're all in this industry and we're all trying to help folks, and every day we see things posted and said, and sometimes you sit here, with some expertise and you scratch your head. And so it's funny you say that, because I just saw something funny posted the other day. I saw someone, supposed expert, that said you shouldn't, ship prototypes into companies to look at. I run open innovation programs, so I look at prototypes all the time. I looked at many hundreds over the years. They said they might get damaged, and I probably over the years I've gotten like 3 maybe that have come in damaged. But in any event, they're really, really important. And I was going to post something and said, just make sure you build them right and you pack them properly. And if you can't pack them properly, go to your UPS store and they'll pack them for you. So that's my LOL for the week.
I get prototypes like daily from all over the world. I mean, that is insane.
They're very important to the process, and we'll do another show on that someday. But in any event, thanks. Every day we should start with one LOL. I think you're right. But let me get started with today's show, because that's what everybody came on for. And today's show is really, really important. I'm going to be right up front. I'm a huge time advocate of trade shows, of industry's trade shows, and the importance of attending them, either attending them just personally to walk them, or in some cases, maybe if you're ready to show your products at them or participate. Of course, that's in the times when trade shows are actually running, so it's a little bit unusual. We'll talk about that today. But it's my pleasure to bring out in front of the world here 2 of my best friends, Deb Hess and Cathie Kirik. People don't see them nearly enough. They are the folks behind the scenes that make the UIA happen and are totally dedicated to everything we're doing. So let me say hi to them and then introduce them to you. Hi, guys.
Hey, Warren. Hello there. Thank you for this opportunity.
Of course. So Deb, let me start with you, and then if you could fill people in a little bit more on your background, and then we'll do Cathie. I met Deb, for full disclosure, many years ago at the Minnesota Inventors Congress, which, forget the name Minnesota Inventors Congress, it was the Deb Hess show, and it was in Redwood Falls, Minnesota, and it was the best inventor, hands-on trade show, really just dedicated totally to inventors in the country. But Deb, just tell us, the audience, a little bit about your background there, how you got in the space, and what you're doing today with the UIA.
Well, the best part of the story is back in 1985, when I met many of the judges that were there for that expo that year. And we are people talking about inventors nationally that would be known if I shared their names. We're standing at the front desk and talking about how they would take a shaving can and create a travel size one. And I go, you guys are nuts. How do I get involved with you? So they went and got the board of directors president, which was Bob Starr, or the founder of the MIC, who's Bob Starr. And I started with them back then, and I was a part of that show and never left until we closed the doors in October of 2015. And it was a matter of education, the trade show opportunity, the opportunity to network and meet people and get instant feedback on your ideas. And I could share so many sad stories about lessons learned and success stories. So trade shows have been a part of me for 35 years. And so there's a lot of insight that can be gained from hearing people's experiences and sharing them. So that's part of what we're hoping to accomplish today.
And I will just add to this and fully embarrass Deb that she ran that show and was involved in every single detail. And it was because of Deb that, you know, I live in Connecticut. You fly to Minneapolis, then it's a 2-hour drive to MIC. And I came because of her and her involvement and her inspiration. And I know that there were many other people that made the same trek. So like our next guest, which I'll introduce in a second, when the MIC sort of stopped getting its funding from the state of Minnesota, I was right there to ask Deb if she would come and help us with the UIA. So maybe Deb, just tell people what you do behind the scenes with the UIA.
Well,
try to keep it under 2 hours, by the way, if you can.
Yeah, well, that, oh no, that you give me way much more credit. I do truly love working in this side of the industry, on the nonprofit side of educating inventors. So that's why it wasn't a hard decision. It was like, I mean, it was a very sad day when the doors closed, because it's like, I've got 30 years of information and where do I go with it? And the MIC and the UIA were working together because we had a contract between the two organizations on some background work. And it was just changing it from being a contract with the MIC to be with me individually. And so a lot of the behind the scenes things, coordinating the board meetings and making sure that we're complying with the 501c3 nonprofit regulations with the IRS, and responding to emails from inventors that come into our admin site, you know, the UIA USA information. So I just do what I do.
You're also the conscience in a lot of ways, and you know, I'm pretty pure, but you're over beyond me. Just for like our next guest, I'll introduce him, and it has no problem slapping me around, you know, when we get out of line. So that's really important, and I say that in fun and jest because we have such a great relationship. All of us do. It's almost like family, but really, there's times when a lot's going on, and I believe Deb's really the heart and soul and conscience, in my opinion, of the entire industry, because I think the UIA is the core group that nationally is wants to do things right, and Deb's right there. So I hope I've so fully embarrassed her that she won't have to talk for another minute. So let's move over to Cathie, and I want to embarrass Cathie for a little bit. So.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, stop. So Cathie, I'll just quickly go on and let her speak for herself, but spent almost, or at least 30 years with the US Patent and Trademark Office. I've known Cathie for many years, because not only was she with the USPTO, but she was in the inventor outreach area, and is as knowledgeable as anyone about the plight of the inventors and particularly about IP. And so Cathie, another person who, the day she retired, I went to her party and asked her, please. Now, Cathie, I'll let you speak for yourself. Tell your background and what you're up to now.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Warren, for that. And Deb, you are too modest. I've known Warren and Deb both for a very long time. Even when I was at the US Patent and Trademark Office, I worked with the United Inventors Association because, you know, they were a nonprofit organization. Part of my main objective was to educate the inventors. So while Deb ran the MIC shows, which, by the way, Deb, you should tell them about that time we went to Fargo, North Dakota.
That's where it was 32 degrees below zero with 64 below wind chill.
I think we saw the movie. I think we saw the movie. It was called Fargo.
Yeah, no, I've never been in weather like that. But anyway, 39 years in the federal government. I spent 10 years at the Copyright Office. And then I spent another 29 years at the Patent and Trademark Office. Pretty much my whole career was helping inventors and small businesses. Sort of like Deb, I did a lot of outreach and education. So for 18 years, I ran the USPTO's annual Independent Inventors Conference. We would have anywhere from 100 to 400 inventors that would show up. So there's a lot of lessons learned that inventors need to be aware of. And so when Warren approached me, I mean, I love interacting with the inventors. I love hearing their stories. I love sharing the information. So the trade show was just kind of like a natural move for me. And I said to Warren when he came, I said, well, can I be retired for a little bit before we start this?
I think we gave you a week off.
Yeah, it was a little bit of time. So yeah, I think it's important. I think there's a lot of information that people need to consider when they're coming to a trade show. There's lots of different aspects to it. And sometimes you get caught up and, you don't think about all the different phases that have to go on. So hopefully we can share some of that information with you.
Yeah, and so let me just finalize that and then we'll get into the meat of the subject here. So Cathie is officially our trade show director and Deb's our operations manager. So those are just titles. They both overlap in a lot of ways. So let's talk about trade shows. And Deb, let me start with you. You've not only done the MIC, which is sort of an inventor industry specific show, which they don't really exist anymore. So maybe you could tell people about that, how that was a centralized, that we sort of got the idea at the UIA, like rather than have one location, let's go out to the industries and put on trade shows there. But maybe you could just give a little bit of background on how the MIC morphed into the multiple trade shows we're doing today and what we do at the UIA at these shows.
So the MIC format was literally, it didn't matter what category your invention might be in. There was a place on the floor. It wasn't industry specific. And we had judges and there were, it evolved over the years from the original ones with hundreds and hundreds of inventors on a fairgrounds to, being in a much more formal settings. And each time you make those kinds of changes, the quality of the inventions increase. The judges would talk every year about how the prototypes are better, how the inventor's understanding of, what steps they have to take grew. But a lot of that was because we were doing education at the same time. And so being on that show floor is so important. But when the MIC and the UIA, because we had joint conversations for a number of years there and trying to figure out how to do this better. And the UIA actually took the leap and did, I think, one of the best moves that you could make. And that is to help inventors get to the industries that their product is connected to, because that's the name of the game. It's all about that networking piece and making connections. And there really isn't a better place than in those industries, especially using the National Hardware Show as an example, where you have the retailer there in the building, you have manufacturers in that building, and there's just no better way to make these connections. And as we talk, there's examples that I'll be sharing of inventors that walk through those doors and have really got some great insight to share.
And that's kind of what hit me from the beginning, 15 years ago. The MIC was a great effort. And there was a Yankee Expo in Waterbury, Connecticut. And then there was the Impex in Pittsburgh, which, but I think the problem was, it's like you said, it's tough to get all industries there, and then you would just get some sporadic coverage. So you would have farm equipment next to exercise equipment, next to, personal care and so forth, and you didn't have enough. So the idea was like, instead of going to the mountain, let's bring the mountain to the people, and that's where the idea of the National Hardware Show came up. But Cathie, going over to you, before you really got engaged with the trade shows with the UIA, you used to attend trade shows on behalf of the USPTO. Maybe you could just talk about that a little bit, experience and your MIC and maybe some of these shows that you went to that was a precursor for what we developed into.
Right. So we did a lot, again, we did a lot of outreach and education for inventors. And then we realized that there's a lot of inventors at these trade shows that need to have information about intellectual property. So we started attending the trade shows and having a booth. And I was amazed at the questions. They were all over the map. I filed my provisional application. I didn't file anything. What's going to happen to me? And so from that point, we realized that, there's really an education factor here that we need to include in these trade shows. So one of the things, since I came to the UIA, and I'm not exactly sure, I think we attended a lot of your trade shows when I was still working at the office. So after I left, I was like going, this is so key. I always make sure to include somebody from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, because it's just an important, it's an important piece of the whole process.
And it's a great, and that'll lead us into a little bit, Kath, maybe you could describe, we do a number of trade shows. Our biggest is the National Hardware Show, which is the largest booth pavilion show in the country now. So maybe we could just segue from that into sort of the USPTO and patents is one part, but the educational component and what the booth area kind of looks like and what it's kind of, maybe you could just describe for everybody who hasn't been there what it's all about, you know.
Me?
Yeah. Yep.
So you know what, the National Hardware Show, and I've been at a couple of them. It is one of my favorites because, you know, the United Inventors Association has a designated area that's become the Inventor Spotlight. The retailers, the buyers, everybody knows it. So the place is always a buzz. I mean, we can have 175 new inventors that are there, and they're all in this one big area. But the other bonus is we have ongoing education throughout those 3 days. From 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're bringing in guest speakers that talk about different parts of the process. You know, licensing, intellectual property. How do you make your pitch? You know, we do our own little pitch panels, kind of like a little mini Shark Tank. So I think that in addition to being at the trade show, the education that you get there alone is priceless. It's worth the cost of the show.
I agree heartily. And Deb, maybe we could just talk about, continue that to like where we started years ago with the setup and how we've evolved. Because every year we get a little better, even down to like making the aisles line up differently, the stages, the educational component. Just maybe talk about where we've come from and where we are today. Because by the way, these guys go to all the shows, you know, and are out there on the front line. So they're the ones that can explain it. But maybe you could tell how we've evolved and gotten better over the last few years, Deb.
Well, I think you shared the important part is we learn and change and adapt to meet the needs of the people that we are serving. And, you know, when you go from a smaller space and you learn how to change the stage, how you change the environment in the room, and we work really hard at not feeling like we're stuck in this having to do things a certain way, that we're open to change, we're open to hearing input from people. And as they adapt, it just makes it grow. And, you know, the stage presence, you know, the wonderful job that for the hardware show, obviously, they changed our stage to make it look so professional. And it just has it sets you up. It's no different than what I shared about with the MIC on how we used to have 12 black walnut crusher machines show up and, you know, 14 toilet, you know, but ways to lower the seat on a toilet. And it changes as you raise up your professional level. And that's where helping educate inventors about the steps that they should take to have a successful time at a show is so critical, because the more information you have, the more prepared you are to actually accomplish whatever goals you've chosen, you know, to attend the show for. And everybody comes, or many inventors come with different perceptions of what they're going to do. And they really need to understand why they're choosing to be at these shows, so that what their outcome is closer to what they're hoping for than just walking in and thinking that this miracle is going to happen at this show.
Sure.
I just want to jump in and add one more thing to that, because how we've evolved at the United Inventors Association, I think, is so key, because the fact that when you go to these trade shows, they're huge. They are huge. You've got, you know, all the big companies are there, and here you are with your new product. And sometimes you just get lost out there on the show floor, you know, but the beauty of what we've done is being able to have them all in one area. And there's a huge advantage to that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And so we'll talk about that, the mechanics of that, but the crowds, right? It's really, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, you know, but it's the most exciting area of these shows, you know, right?
We
Deb,
hear it.
and then
Yeah,
talk about the excitement, because, and then you guys are right up front, literally all day long, you know, getting bombarded with people. Talk about the enthusiasm and what people are saying to you on the ground, and just the whole buzz of it. If you could possibly describe, I know you can't do it perfectly if you haven't been to one, but maybe you could describe a little bit of the excitement and the buzz.
I think the best way to describe it is when you have a manufacturer who has paid a great deal of money to be on the main show floor there, when they come on or walk by and say, we'd give anything to have this kind of crowd, because you're literally sometimes walking through the aisle and you have to turn sideways because there are so many people standing at the booths and, you know, and communicating with the inventors. So just to verify that the inventor is getting what they're there for, and that is some feedback, insight, and connections. And it truly, I think when we both leave, and this would be my, well, I've been through 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. So I've been to 5 of them, and it just keeps getting more powerful. The energy and the enthusiasm and the value of that space.
You know, it wasn't always that way, Deb. We started with like 10 booths out in the hallway, and everyone thought we were a joke, you know, 15 years ago, and it's grown every year substantially. But Cathie, talk a little bit about some of the individual conversations, maybe bring it down to what type of person attends the show, either has a booth there or walks it. Obviously, you know, they have it, you know, they're a little maybe up the food chain a little bit in terms of being prepared, but and what are the types of conversations that you have all day with these folks?
Oh, well, you know, lots of conversations. It's like Deb said, you know, the inventors are usually so grateful to have the opportunity to be here. They're so surprised that they've had, you know, this many conversations, and they talk to this company and they're going to follow up with them, you know, and the education has been so great. Oh my God, I learned so much. I can't believe that I can actually talk to somebody about licensing, or I can actually talk to somebody about my patent. So yeah, I mean, it's very rewarding because, like I said, I mean, that's pretty much what I did my whole career. So it's kind of a passion for me. And you know, I've always had positive feedback from the people that have been there.
So let's go into the pitch panels a little bit. We're gonna by the way, segue at some point into virtual shows, which is what's going on now because we're setting those up now. But Cathie, talk a little bit about the pitch panel. You know, I know we've had Home Depot, management of Home Depot, we've had QVC, we've had a lot of big retailers, we've got experts that come in. What's that experience like for the independent inventor to have to go up and get up in front of a stage and talk, you know?
So literally, you know, the people are like, oh my God, I'm terrified. Some of them are like going, okay, no problem, I'm good. But then you have those inventors that go, oh my God, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to say. What about, you know, and it's kind of talking them through the process. It's just like you and I having this conversation. Okay. You know your product better than anybody else. You've got to pitch it. You've got to sell it. You believe in it and just sell it to them. And you know what I'm going to say, on all the pitches that we've done, I can't even think of anybody that really, really did a horrible job. They all come across, you know, they talk about their product, they tell what it is. And then, you know, a lot of times what they do is they sit in the audience and they listen to the people that are pitching ahead of them. Yeah. So that's a very good way to learn, you know, where should I go with mine? What should I tweak on mine? We stress to them in advance, you know, practice your pitch, get in front of a camera, you know, say it a few times yourself so you know what you're going to say, so you feel comfortable up there. Home Depot was always a popular pitch, you know, because everybody wants to get in front of Home Depot. And, you know, and what I usually tell the inventors is you have to remember these pitches are to give you an opportunity to get in front of somebody, to pitch your product, to get some positive feedback, be it good or bad, you know, because that's an important part of it too, is you have to listen to what people say. Just because you think your baby's beautiful doesn't mean everybody else does.
So Cathie, yeah. I want to continue on, and Deb, I'll come back to you on a few other things, but since this is your area of expertise, what do people have to do, you know, in terms of the development of their prototype, their booth, and intellectual property wise, to, you know, to have the confidence to go out and participate sort of publicly at this event? What do you recommend?
Well, number one, because I came from the Patent and Trademark Office, you got to think about, you've got to have some sort of intellectual property protection. Anytime you go out in the public and you disclose your invention, that's considered public disclosure by the office. And you have started a 1-year clock ticking against you. So the easiest way to do that is to file for a provisional patent application. It's a 1-year application. It gets you into the office. It gives you patent pending status, and it allows you to go out and test the waters to see if people are really interested. You can also do a utility patent application. You can also do a design, or you can register a trademark. Any type of intellectual property protection is key to coming and doing this show. It's always best if you have a workable prototype, you know, something that you can show, that people can see, they can touch, they understand how it works. You know, have your sell sheet, have your business cards, have as much information about your product when you come to your booth. Work on your booth. You know, make sure that your booth looks good and that people are going to want to stop by. One of the ladies at the hardware show, and I cannot think of the name of it, but they had a young lady in a shower cap with a shower curtain around her. And their product had something to do with the shoes that you wear, but it was such an eye-catching booth that you wanted to walk by and go, what is it you have?
That always attracts all the men.
Yeah. No, that wasn't my point, Warren, but.
But you're right. You got to grab attention, especially in a busy place. You got to stand out. So
Right.
Deb, the educational component of it, and you've watched a lot of these pitch panels. I mean, it's like, what, 3 or 4 minutes, the inventor gets to pitch, and then they get 3 or 4 minutes of expertise, given back to them. What do you recommend to these folks to get prepared for that type of pitch? And do you think, have you seen people that have like never been through it before and it's just an eye-popping experience?
Oh, yes, more times than I'd like to count, because they haven't taken the time to actually either watch how they actually happen, or they're not, or they're just so assured that their story is right. I think the sitting and watching people waiting, you can see their anxiety raising, because it's like, well, have I got everything together? But it's so critical that you share what is important about your product. Yeah. That is going to help a company make money. I mean, that's, if you're there pitching because you're looking for a licensing agreement or something like that, your job is to help them understand how this product is better than what's on the market, why people are going to be willing to spend their money on it. So what are those special benefits that actually will make somebody say, this should deserve space on our shelves, or if they did these improvements, it's worth having further conversation with them, because that's the type of thing that in the pitches where you're actually pitching to people who are industry experts, sometimes there are pitch panels that it's literally for the purpose of you practicing.
Sure.
And even your local inventor shows, there are inventor clubs across the country who do these shows each year, where the opportunity to show your product and get that feedback from people is so important, because you're having fellow inventors sit around and giving you insight into what you could do to improve it, or to challenge you to get answers to questions that you think that people are going to be asking. And so just sitting and watching the others and hearing the questions that the panelists are asking them. And if you don't know the answer to those questions, your job is to get the answers to those questions, because you don't want to be caught off guard.
So it's all really, trade shows are about engagement, real engagement. It's not about sitting in your office, thinking out things. It's not about theory. It's for those people that want to get out there, and that's the way that you learn, and you learn exponentially more that way, it seems to me, because you're really on the front lines. Listen, I want to talk, we'll do things just a slight bit different today. I want to come back and talk a lot about virtual shows, but Carmine, you said a couple of questions have come in. So why don't we address a few of those, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about virtual shows.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we got a whole bunch. So I'll just go through a couple of them. First off, and I don't know if you guys covered this, but whoever wants to answer, what does someone need to prepare to present at one of the shows?
Deb, you want to take that?
Well, and that is something that is important, because there are steps that you want to take. Michael Miller, who is a UIA board member, when he's talking to an inventor, or is going to schedule a call with them.
He runs, by the way, Michael Miller runs the Open Innovation Program for a large hardware company, NCH. So, yep, plumbing.
Right. It is important for you. Literally, it's like you're planning your pitch, but you are there. There are many steps, and if anybody wants it, there's a chapter that I wrote in a book that is all about trade shows, and it kind of walks through step by step. And I'd be happy to email it. So if somebody wants to email admin@uiausa.org, I can send it out. I do need to make a few tweaks, because the technology has changed in the way companies communicate. But there are a lot of steps that go into place. And it is a matter of, what your booth is going to look like, following the registration process. Make sure that you're reading the information that the company that is hosting the show is sharing with you to prepare well. I don't know, Cathie and I, if we got a quarter for every time we said, did you read the information that I sent you? 14 different times, 18 different times in every email, there's a disclaimer that says, do this.
Men don't read things. Well, Cathie, I want you to pick on too, but the preparation is important, and there's two ways to participate in the pitch panels. Now, we do, for full disclosure, give priority to people who have paid for booths. And usually our pitch panels are oversubscribed because we can do about 7 or 8 an hour. It sounds slow, but it's over 4 hours when we're totally exhausted. We may have only done 30. So we may get 100 people to sign up. We'll do several different pitch panels. But there is an opportunity sometimes if you're just walking the show and you don't have a booth, we may be able to fit you in. Maybe Cathie, you could talk to that about how people can participate.
Participate in
a pitch panel, specifically at the show.
That was one of the questions. You like reading my mind.
So typically, it's kind of like what Deb said. You know, when we're doing these shows, we have to plan the pitch panel out in advance. And like I said, they're very limited. So we'll send out information and say, hey, are you interested in pitching? Here's what you need to do. And, you know, somebody, if they glaze it, because I can't tell you how many times I get to the show and somebody's going, I didn't know you were having pitch panels. And I'm like, did you not read my email? Did you not see the agenda? You have to pay attention to the information that comes out in advance. Even with, the virtual show that's getting ready to come up with the National Hardware Show, they have sent out so much information on, if you're registered for the National Hardware Show, you need to go here to start creating your meetings and to set up your booth and all of this stuff virtually. But I can guarantee you there's people, like you said, that are not going to be reading those emails. So, for our pitch panel that we're doing, because you're limited, you only get like 4 minutes to pitch your product. So a couple of the things that I would say that kind of off of what Deb says, when you get up there and you're going to pitch your product, start out immediately by telling them what your name is and what your product is. Don't go into your background and how it took you forever to do this and what you finally, because, that's all relevant information, but it's not about your product. You need to get the story of your product out there. My name is Cathie Kirik, and I invented, the cell phone, and this thing is going to change your life because everybody needs to call everybody.
Oh my God.
So, instead I could go out there and go, my name is Cathie Kirik. I worked at the office for 39 years. And, after I did that, and then,
right. And that's one of the educational experiences they get. First of all, it's a little bit like going to college. If you didn't sign up for Philosophy 101, you might not get in the course this semester. So right. Yeah, get it. And that, by the way, that's men. We're talking to you, men. You don't read, you don't get organized, you just show up. And
that's Warren saying that. That's not Cathie saying that. The other thing that's important too is that don't go up there when you're pitching your product. Don't go up there and say this product is going to solve everybody's problem, because that's not really the case. You have to know what your market is. Who are your customers going to be? Whatever you have, it's not for everybody. It's very specific. The example I love to use is my inventor that I met at the Houseware Show. Her name was Bridget Douglas, and she invented what's called the drain wig. So she had beautiful long blonde hair. She had 4 daughters, all with long blonde hair. She said the biggest problem was her tub got clogged on a regular basis.
Hopefully with long blonde hair.
But you know what? She appealed to me because even though it's up, I have very long hair. My daughter has very long hair. I have a 60-year-old cast iron bathtub that gets clogged. It worked great for me. And that was her pitch. She went right to the point, told you exactly what it did. And she actually, I believe she walked away from that show with a deal.
Yeah, and that, and we know a lot of people who have, but one of the funny ones, I know you're going to kill me for saying this, but we had a Home Depot panel with senior management at Home Depot, and God bless them, somebody came with a Lowe's bucket. And I can tell you, I've been through a lot of presentations because I used to run the Open Innovation Program for the folks that made Ryobi and Rigid Power Tools. And if somebody came in with like a Black & Decker or DeWalt, it did not go over well. So please curb your, make sure your pitch is done around. But Deb, you remember that with the
Yes, I do. Very, very well.
I handled it very nicely, I thought. But anyway, the guy wasn't listening. We tried to tell him, and finally he didn't listen. So we decided that we would just tell the audience. So try to gear your pitch towards whoever you're pitching to, because that's really important. I look at many thousands of products, and it always is impressive to me when somebody customizes their presentation to fit Lifetime Brands or TTI or Merchant Media. And so it really is very impressive. So I'm sorry, Carmen, I know you got more questions.
No, it's all good stuff. Everything that we're talking about is questions that are coming in. So one of the questions I thought was good, and I get this a lot when I'm walking around. will buyers, people, in the industry approach you at a booth, or do you have to go find them in the show?
Deb, you want to take that one?
Well, I think
You learned.
yeah, I think that you would be much more inclined to know the answer to that one. I have a supposition of probably both, but
Yeah.
more yes, they do come by, but they may not talk to you there. They may reach out later.
Sure, that's a good point. So look, I'm for full disclosure, I'm a 44-year veteran of the Houseware Show. I've been going to shows around the world. I've probably been to 250 shows, and obviously we go to the Hardware Show every year. I'm a big believer in them. All in these inventor areas, you'd be shocked. Everybody in the entire show walks them. You may not know them. You may not see them. I know at the Houseware Show last year, the chairman of Lifetime got to the inventor area before I did. He'd already walked it, okay? You may not recognize them, but they may be Walmart. They may be Amazon. They may be the CEO of Black & Decker, okay? They're all there. And then I know that the president of TTI, he would walk the show and the whole team. Everybody is there. And so you would be shocked to know, you might even get a little nervous to know who's coming by. And so, and if they have interest in you, then their people come back and work. Now, as far as retailers go, they're all there too. You've got all the big retailers. They may not be as apt to come up to you and start talking to you because they typically don't, you're not making product necessarily directly for them, although they may inquire about it. But if you're looking for a licensing deal with a manufacturer, they're going to be there all the time. So just never be surprised. I remember one time years ago when I launched Misto, that somebody came to the booth and they had their badge turned around backwards. And I talked to him for about 5 minutes, and he loved Misto and everything. And I finally said, "Who are you?" And he turned around as like the president of Costco. And we got 100,000 piece order, $1 million order. Okay. So not that day, but you know what I'm saying, your life can be changed. I saw an interview recently, people are joking about it can be changed if you engage and you're out there. I'm not saying it will. You will come out of a show, I guarantee you, with a tremendous amount of knowledge and better off and inspired in every possible way. And you will learn if your product is not going to sell, you will learn that too. You will know by the end if it doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. But you may also, I've done many licensing deals off of things that I've seen at shows. So not to get too inspired.
Well, Warren, how is it possible then? There's people out there that don't, think going to a show is beneficial.
Well, here, first of all, I'm not sure if that's the right way to couch it, whether it's beneficial or not. But it is beneficial, period, end of conversation. There's no debate there. The question is it worth the money? And is it worth your time to go? Okay, because those are two resources that are valuable. Now, if you're an inventor and you have a limited amount of resources, how much do you have? If you have $10,000, you have $5,000, you have $30,000. How do you want to spend that $5,000 or $10,000? If you do a provisional patent application, that's going to cost you, $500 or $1,000. Okay, so there's part of your money spent. If you go to a show, it's going to cost you $1,000 just for the hotel room and the plane ticket. So that's real money. If you attend the hardware show, it's going to cost you $2,500 for your booth. And then if you fix it up, by the time you're all in, it's probably like four grand or so. So it's not inexpensive. Then again, it may cost you $3,000 or $4,000 for a coach, okay, who will give you advice, okay? So you have to measure that. It's going to a show gonna benefit where I am in the process versus saying like hiring a coach, for instance, okay? Or if you go for a full patent filing, which is $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, what is the value of all these things? So you have to make up your mind. You may decide that you can't necessarily show in a booth, and maybe that's a little bit too much for you now, but you may decide to go to the show. I've walked many trade shows just to spend a day or two there, for $1,000, and got a cheap hotel room. You will come out, there's no industry, and I've gone to all the shows, every electronics, SEMA, hardware, every show known to man I've been to, okay? And I always learn an incredible amount about the industry because you can also pick up trade magazines, you can go to educational events, and if you're going to invent a product and you want to exploit an industry, you can find out how the companies are. You can get cards for the people that you want to follow up on. It is invaluable. So the question becomes, not whether it's beneficial or not. It is, okay? And if anybody wants to argue that, I'm here, okay? But the question is, how do you spend your shekels, okay? And that's up to you, and you've got to make those decisions, but you need to think about it. You just don't spend your money on the first date, you know? Look at the whole array of options that you have to learn and choose the one that's best for you.
You know, and I'm going to jump in there too, just for a second too, because that's a really good point. You know, you may not be ready to invest all of that money to come to the show. You may just have that idea and maybe you've sketched out what it is. So like Warren says, maybe you just attend the show, you walk the show, you see what's out there. And on the other note too, when Warren was talking about, you know, one of the things I find interesting when the people are coming through our area, I can't tell you how many people have their badge on backwards.
That's the big ones. Those are the
big one. They
don't want to be known.
That's right. They don't necessarily want to engage with you right there, but if they like your product, they pick up your sheet, they pick up your card, they may likely get a hold of you after the show.
Cathie, I had one at PGA, not last year, the year before, where a guy had a new driver and he was talking to a person in the booth, and we were going around judging because we do these judging contests. And I was trying to get a word in edgewise, and I thought, you know, I didn't want to interrupt him because he was doing business in essence. And then I look over and I see the badge, and the guy's from Titleist. Right?
Oh, wow.
And I said, I'll see you later. I'm not going to be in the middle of this.
Right.
And the guy was like thrilled. Now, he may not have gotten a deal with Titleist, but
sure.
If Titleist looked at his club and decided they weren't interested in licensing, that tells you a story too, you know, and that's what you need to take on.
Yeah, and the other thing that I would mention too is that, you know what, it's when you are at the trade shows, you know, it's usually 3 full days. You have got to be on your game. You cannot be sitting at your table behind the booth. You got to be high energy.
Like you do at home.
You have to be engaged. You have to approach everybody, talk to everybody that comes by your booth, whether they stop or not. You at least have to try. And the other thing, and I don't know that we mentioned this, it's really beneficial if you can bring somebody with you. It's very difficult to stay in your booth all day long. So if you can bring somebody, that's great. Gives you an opportunity to go out and maybe meet some people on the floor that, you know, you're interested in talking to. If you can't bring somebody, if it's cost prohibitive, get to know your neighbors. You know, the people that are in the booth to the right and the left of you, they're going to be your best friend for the next 3 days. And a lot of times, first of all, when we were at the USPTO, there's another young lady, her name was Kimberly Meckwood, and she has the clip and carry. It's a little device to carry bags. I heard her pitch so many times that when she said, I got to go get a sandwich, I said, no problem. I got it covered for you.
No, but you're so right about, remember that the trade show, like if, again, we're talking about today a little bit about the National Hardware Show. That is the main industry trade show for the United States of America, plus people coming from around the world. It is a crossroads, okay? And you are on ground zero of that industry. If you're trying to exploit it, get out and walk the show, get out and get the lay of the land. You won't have that opportunity again. You could spend 363 days at home, okay, thinking about this stuff and researching online, and you won't get the experience that you will get in that. Now, Cathie's right. You have to be ready. You know, if you look, folks, if you just have an idea and that's what you think is going to happen, you're going to have an idea, send it into a company and license it. I'm telling you, I get 5,000 a year. I've signed hundreds of licenses. That sending in an idea is almost like writing a letter to Santa Claus. Okay, so if that's where you are at the idea stage, you need to go further. Okay, so you might just want to walk the show and see what else is out there and grow as a person and grow the idea and so forth. That maybe that's just right for you. But you're right. For you to get a booth and actually engage, you need to be a little bit farther up the food chain. Maybe Deb, we'll get you back in here, Deb. You jump in because I know you have a lot to say.
You know, I made a phone call this week to talk to Greg Amundsen. Greg invented InstaTrim. He's in the process right now of growing from a $500,000 a year in sales to $2 million this year because of, you know, the current environment. But Greg started at the MIC as an exhibitor, went on to the hardware show in the Inventor Spotlight a few years ago, and now has his own space on the floor. You know, his company now has its own booth. And I asked him about this conversation about, are trade shows worth it? And he said, everybody he's met has been who has helped him get where he's at through these different events, whether it was the speakers that were at the MIC that came around and talked to him, whether it was company and insiders or whoever. He calls himself a garage inventor. He said he knows, because he was there, that inventors typically want the path of least resistance, but there's so much value in learning what to be aware of and to learn about. And he said he would get cards from people at these shows that he knows today he can call and get some business insight from. When he has a challenge, he's made those connections, he's done that networking. And it's just so important, because what I'm sharing isn't what I've learned from inventors over the years. These are direct words from an inventor's mouth about the importance. John Osher, he invented the spin brush toothbrush. So he made a list of the 17 mistakes startups make. And the number one mistake is failing to spend enough time researching the business idea to see if it is viable. And this is what you're doing in some of these opportunities, whether it's the Inventor Club shows that you're doing the pitching and you're getting that feedback, to sitting in a booth and watching the people come by. I can tell you heartbreaking stories of people who have sat in their booth, and people don't stop. They literally walk right by them. They're sitting in their booth with their head down. They're not, there's nothing, they've done nothing to engage the people to come in, and they just think this miracle is going to happen. And I think the hardest story is a man who came 43 different times to the MIC with a product. And I talked to him, one of the last times that I actually saw him, I asked him what he really was expecting to happen. And he actually never did anything before or after the shows at all. He just expected this miracle to happen. And that's not how the real world works.
You have to engage. By the way, real quick, and then I want to talk about virtual, and then we'll come back to the questions. But I was at MIC one year and on a pitch panel, and a gentleman, very nice gentleman, came up to give his speech and said, "My name is Kevin," I forget his, Kevin O'Reilly. "I'm on the New Canaan, Connecticut police force, and I keep warning his family safe at night." And I go, holy cow, he came all the way out to MIC to pitch me, and I was about 2 miles away from the police station. It is a funny arena, but let's just talk, Carmen, give us just a couple minutes to talk about the virtual show, because we want to get that in the hour, and then let's come back and answer everybody's questions. So look, everybody knows, obviously, with COVID shut down in March, the houseware show. And then very soon after that, the hardware show. The hardware show was rescheduled for September. Hopefully in May, it'll be on again next year, but who knows? But right now, the hardware show is going to be a virtual show, and it's going to run October 12th, 13th, and 14th, and 15th of October, 2 weeks from now. And we've been very involved. Cathie, maybe you could just tell everybody a little bit about the virtual show that they're running, and how they would get involved with it, and what we're doing with the UIA with the pitch panels there.
So right, COVID has kind of changed everything. Like I said, we're all going virtual. So the National Hardware Show is having their virtual show. So you can do the same thing. You can sign up to attend, or you can sign up to exhibit. For new inventors, the National Hardware Show is offering a reduced rate, which I wanted to mention too. The UIA's Inventor Spotlights at the trade shows that we participate in, our fee is always reduced from what the main show floor is. So it's all bargaining.
About half, yeah.
Exactly. So again, for the National Hardware Virtual Show, they've done the same thing. So the fee is reduced if you want to go virtual. It's $500. If you're interested in attending, you can go to their website. It's nationalhardwareshow.com. And they have lots of information. In fact, I'm getting flooded with emails on how to start setting up my opportunities and how to start arranging, with the companies that I want to meet, how to get my information on the website. They have a lot of online educational things that they're doing as well. The difference is, like I said, it's just all virtual. It's all in front of our little computer, which is kind of all new to us that are a little bit older. But the other keynote too is that, like Warren said, to come to the National Hardware Show on the floor is roughly $2,500, not to mention the airfare if you have to get there in the hotel. But this is virtual, and it's for $500. So it's an opportunity to get your product out there at a much more reduced rate. You know, there's no travel, there's, you know, no other expenses. You don't have to eat out. You just have to log on, but you have to be committed to going online and going into the portal, setting up everything that they're offering you in order to benefit from that. So the United Inventors Association, we're going to do three sessions, October 12th, 13th, and 14th at 2 o'clock. On October 12th, I'm going to have my former colleagues from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. They're going to talk about intellectual property and why you should consider your IP a business strategy. Along with everything else, that should be part of your strategy when you're moving forward with the product. On the 13th and the 14th, we're going to have 2 pitch panels with UIA, pitch to the experts. And it's going to be at 2 o'clock on each afternoon. So we have information. If you're interested in pitching your product, you know, we have, you can, I guess, send you, Deb, the email, or should I have them send it directly to me?
To you.
Pitch to me. All right. So if you're interested in participating in the National Hardware Show, you're interested in being a part of our pitch panel, you can send me an email, and that would be Cathie, CATHIE, at UIAUSA.org. We have a limited number of slots, but you know what? Again, it's a great opportunity to kind of test the waters, practice your pitch, and get some really valuable feedback from some experts in the industry.
That's awesome. And Deb, maybe you could just add a few of your thoughts about virtual, and because it's a new thing for us.
Yeah, and I think it's really important that inventors literally understand. So if I'm sitting here and if I turn my camera, you would see that there's bright lights behind and I would be just this shadow. That there's staging that you want to do as you're prepping. You know, if you're doing a 1-minute pitch, that you are really narrowing it down, that you are spending time in front of this camera before you actually do the pitch, that you're practicing, that you are focusing on, which I have to work on regularly, that you're looking at where your camera hole is on your computer, so that you're not looking down at your keyboard or at the other parts on the board, that you're focusing on that spot so that you're looking at the people that you're talking to. Some of Michael's other suggestions are to make sure you have your name and contact information like on a card. If you don't have it behind you, like Cathie has the UIA, that you have your name and something on there so that it keeps it in front of them. So he also suggests to practice it in front of the camera, standing up. Yep. Don't be sitting down, because you carry yourself differently when you're standing up. You really do. If possible, use a Bluetooth microphone. Stop all other programs. That's another example that happened at one of our pitches. Do not have your phone, use somebody else's phone, but make sure that all of your sounds around you, that there is no phones ringing, and please don't answer a phone call if one does come in the middle of it. We had that happen. That is not how you want to be presenting, because if you're at
a Home Depot pitch, don't answer Lowe's. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it is really some real common sense things, but you don't think about it because you're so busy trying to figure out what you're going to say. I always have to be reminded to speak slower. I'm a very fast, when I get excited, when we're talking about something I really love, my energy level increases. You don't want to diminish that, because your enthusiasm for your product is extremely important. But making sure that you're presenting somebody that a company would even want to work with, it is a two-sided relationship. So you want to make sure that you are sharing who you really are, but do it in a way that comes across professionally. And trust me, if you're faking it in that sense, the first contact afterwards, they're going to figure out who you are. So be yourself, but stay on target, stay on business, and make sure that you are, if your goal is to get a licensing agreement, that's what you focus on, not trying to figure out the retail buyer, somebody on the other end that's buying it. Make sure you're talking directly about what it is that your goal is for this purpose of this call or this video that you're doing, like for the virtual trade show. Look into the camera. I've already shared that.
This is all is practice. I mean, practice. I remember when I was in college, I took 4 or 5 interviews with companies I had no interest in really working for, but I just wanted to go through the interview process, right? So it's very similar to that.
It is, it is. Use notes, write down notes so that you don't forget. If you have to have that in front of you, you know, put them off to the side in big letters so that don't forget this, this, this. You know, it's all about preparing. It is all about taking the time to read the information, take advantage of every opportunity that you have, because once you put this together, you'll have it as well for other opportunities to use. So, you know, take time and do it.
You know what, Deb, it's so great you said that, because with the United Inventors Association, we're doing the fall series webinars, and guess who's featured next Thursday?
Yes, a week from today, the same bat time, same bat channel. We have Scott Hind and Dara Trujillo, who are experts on pitching products. So you want to tune in next week, the week before the hardware show, so you can learn how to pitch. So listen, this hour has flown faster than any that we've done so far. Carmen, we might have one or two more questions. Can I?
Don't worry about it. I'm starting to answer them already. So go ahead and give us your information. We'll close up.
Well, that's a really good point, Cathie. Yeah, so we scheduled, believe it or not, we thought out the cadence and the progression of these webinars so that we would introduce you today to this, and then next week will be a whole session on pitching. For those who haven't seen Scott Hind, he's the #1 on-air personality on QVC. And Dara Trujillo, for many years, worked at HSN, started the American Dreams program there, and then also worked for Disney. It's two really superstars, and they will break it down, their talks. So please put it on your calendars now. Come back next Tuesday. And then that week of October 12th will be the hardware show week. Now, Cathie, what do they need to do to sort of watch or participate in that? You know,
Actually, it's just like I said, if you just go to nationalhardwareshow.com, they give you the option. You want to attend or you want to exhibit.
Yep.
Attending doesn't cost you anything, so you can certainly go through that process.
And you can learn. It's so true. Sit in the audience, watch other people. Don't laugh and heckle. Just listen to them. Feel sorry for them when they when they struggle. But I promise you, you do 2 or 3 of these pitches and you'll be better off, much better off. It's like these Zoom sessions. They keep getting better for us, So let me remind everybody, Kirik, Cathie's email is Cathie@uiausa.org. Cathie@uiausa.org. Deb is Deb@uiausa.org. Deb@uiausa.org. I'm www.tuttle@yahoo.com. And please, folks, we're pretty good about getting back to you. We may not get back the same day, but within a couple of days, we'll get back to you. And we care a lot about you, more than you know, because we've been through it, and we enjoy sharing the information. And we want to share real information. We know, I've been through this, I've looked probably, anyway, more than I can count. You can read my book, Inventor Confidential, when it comes out, and you can see how many people I've talked to. We learned along the way, you can take shortcuts, but your odds are much longer for success. And I promise you, you'll get a lower deal. I promise you that. And if anybody wants to email me or talk to me offline, I'm here to talk. If anybody wants to challenge that, I'll get out and say it. We're sometimes not the most popular folks because we tell it like it really is. And we tell you that you're not just going to start playing the guitar and be Led Zeppelin tomorrow. You have to work at it, and you've got to want it, a little bit. And we're just trying to guide you through that process because we've had a lot of success at it individually. And that's what we're here for. So Carmine, I'll turn it over to you and let you wrap it up.
Oh, I love it, man. This is so great, and I love what you guys are saying the whole time. You actually answered several of the questions because of the knowledge and experience you have. The other thing is, I don't think our listeners, and even sometimes myself, don't realize the depth of the people that we're bringing on this show. I mean, these are people like Scott and Dara. These are people that they have their fingers on the button. They know exactly what buyers and people are looking at. That's what's so amazing about this workshop series. People that are listening in, this is real-time stuff, right, guys? I mean, this is so serious.
Carmen, remind people to go back now because we had a whole spring session too. And we have people like Roy Morjan, who's the #1 Kickstarter Indiegogo launcher in the world, and we have Jim Patterson, and Andrea Hens-Evans, two of the finest patent attorneys in the country, who chair the pro bono program and have presented before the Supreme Court. I mean, we're talking about serious. This is we're the UIA is a serious group. You know, you could hear about us and what people say about, but you got to meet us and see. We're in a lot of ways like family. We look. Some people charge for their services. If they're an attorney, they're going to charge you for a patent. We don't set the prices, but half the board doesn't charge anything at all. And we're all out there in our mission. And Deb keeps us honest. Deb keeps us honest all the time. Not cross the line. And God forbid if you do, she will let you know. Okay. And the littlest little. Well, hey, listen, folks. To qualify as a 501c3 nonprofit takes a lot of work. It's why some organizations out there aren't real organizations. They're fronts for companies, and they didn't get that status. We have it because at the end of the day, we earned it. And we've been doing this for 35 years. And we also do our tax returns and everything. It's a whole, we're very serious about this. So anyway, take advantage of us. Write us, email us. We're human beings like you are. We want to help you guys at the end of the day. So that's what
I got one last note before we go. One last note, whether it's virtual or whether you're going to the trade show, both Deb and I have stressed this. You have got to do your homework.
Yes.
Bottom line, do your homework.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can say homework and you can take the word home away. You got to do your work. Okay. It's true. You know, this idea that you are going to send in an idea and you're going to sit back and live on a farm in the countryside and never work again. No. It's a pipe dream, folks. Okay. You know, I love some of these, you know, books are fun to read that tell you can work less, but it's not easy for those of us who have been through it, you know, many times, but you can improve your odds dramatically and come back stronger the next time. Every successful inventor I've ever met, from Josh Malone to Tom Risch to everybody, has had multiple scales up the mountain before they found the one that worked for them. Yeah. So you keep at it, you learn from it, you get smarter every time. That's what we're here to help you get smarter and you know, help. So anyway, we're very passionate about this. Deb and Cathie, you guys ended. I get too fired up. So.
No, you guys are exactly right. And, you know, for every overnight success takes 10 years. So just want people to really know that. And, you know, people win the lotto also. So I mean, it happens.
I can't say it doesn't, but are your odds are already long. Okay. And some folks that are out there, you know, boasting about, you know, it's 1 in 100. Okay. Maybe we can get it up to 10 in 100 if you do it the right way. You know, it's still long. Then you come back the next time. But I'll tell you what, it's a 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000, you know, on the dream front, you know, and that's fine. If you feel better in the beginning dreaming, you know, about it, and that makes you sleep better at night and you don't struggle with it, that's fine. But you're not going to have the financial success. That's what we're all about at the end of the day, is having financial success, you know, or professional success, however you define that, you know, at the end of the day.
I agree.
Well, and I think the biggest challenge is a lot of inventors don't know if they even know the difference between licensing and being an entrepreneur and starting their own company. And that's two completely different paths that you can walk down. And some have skill sets that say this is a good option. And there's some that it's a mesh of both, where they may be licensing it and doing some things on their own on the side. But if your goal is just to license your product and you just send it in and you know, there's no connection on your end of having any true sense of how this really works in the real world, how do you know if you're getting a good deal or not, if you are not investing any time to do the work that is needed to understand what happens in the real world? Because it's very easy to be taken advantage of. And I can share pathetically heartbreaking stories of people who have been taken advantage of because of their naivety.
And that's why we all do this. And that's why you do it, Deb. And that's why Cathie does it. She's been helping people for 30, 40 years. That's why I do it. And at the end of the day, we've been there. I mean, I put my family at financial risk. I understand that. Okay. So this is what we're trying to sincerely help people with. So learn more about the UIA, learn who we are, hear it from us, or talk to us, or just judge us on our own credibility. Don't have us define for you. And we're out there. We're doing a lot of things also with the clubs, inventor clubs. We just had a tremendous session with the U.S. Patent Office the other day. We're going to have more with them. We're trying to work with independent inventors. We're also trying to work with inventor leadership across the country to be the voice of the community. So thank you, folks. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
It's coming around. Thank you all for listening in. We will catch you next time on our workshop show number 4. Go on back, listen to the others as we were talking about. There's a lot of information out there, and we will catch you next Thursday. You all take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.